The first line of Mark Poznansky's new book is rather ominous. He writes, "The future of mankind is far from secure." But over the next 200 pages, Poznansky can get you downright giddy at the prospects of scientific advancement saving our world in so many ways. His book, perhaps appropriately, is called Saved by Science: The Hope and Promise of Synthetic Biology. And it brings the former scientific director of the Robarts Research Institute to our airwaves from the Forest Hill area of the provincial capital. Dr. Poznansky, it's good to see you again. How are you managing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Glad to hear it. Let's start with this kind of quirky question. How bad did things have to get before you could finally feel the need to write a fairly optimistic book about our future?
Well, it started with start to understand a little bit about synthetic biology. But then I must have gone through a pretty pessimistic mood, especially at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I started to think about it, just what dire straits we're really in terms of our health, looking at not only infectious diseases, but many cancers that haven't been resolved, all of the mental illnesses that we've done very poorly with. And then I started to look at other areas, the security of our food supply, not so much in Toronto, but worldwide. And is there going to be enough food in 2050? And then finally, I got to thinking more about climate change and global warming and where we're going there, and became very pessimistic. And then started seeing some incredibly exciting solutions through science. Synthetic biology is only one area. And I thought that it's important for the people, non-scientists, to know that there are problems and there are solutions.
Well, let's pull a quote out of the book, shall we? Because here you've got Steve Jobs quoted in your book as saying, "I think the biggest innovations of the 21st century will be at the intersection of biology and technology." And you just referred to that. You call it synthetic biology. Why don't you tell us what that is?
So Steve Jobs was a super techie, but he didn't know a ton about biology. But somehow he was able to predict that the 21st century will, in fact, have incredible developments as a result of knowledge in biology and, of course, the tech revolution. And synthetic biology is a perfect example of that intersection, where we start to understand the biology of a whole range of different species, from microbes all the way to man, where we can genetically sequence all of those organisms, that is, understand the blueprint of life for them, and then use the technology that Jobs talks about to actually create even new life forms, or alter cells to correct them, cancer cells that have genetic mutations, or bacteria that are doing us harm. And I guess the best example is the mRNA vaccine that was developed for COVID-19 in record speed. And that's a very good example of synthetic biology.
Well, you gave us a hint of this a moment ago, where you essentially told us the different areas that your book looks at in terms of where you think science can save us. And I just want to focus on a few of those areas. We're going to talk health, we're going to talk food, and we're going to talk pollution. So let's start with health, and here's this quote from your book. "Estimates are that within 3 to 5 years, 90% of the population will suffer from any number of severe, usually fatal outcomes. But stored in our computers is the entire genome sequences of a bacterium that is completely resistant to ionizing radiation." Can you pick up the story from there? What do you imagine could emerge from that bacterium?
So that's fanciful, but it's exciting because it's possible. So say, God forbid, the ozone layer is destroyed for whatever reason. We would all start to suffer from ionizing radiation, bad skin cancer, and other melanomas. And there might actually be a solution, because there are microbes that have, through evolution, a billion years of evolution, have developed ways to protect themselves against ionizing radiation. And that is, they've developed repair mechanisms for genetic defects that occur as a result of the radiation. Now, if we know the gene that's helping the microbe to survive the radiation, we could possibly take that gene and insert it into our own cells and make our cells resistant to that same ionizing radiation. That occurs simply because microbes have had 3 billion years of evolution to solve these problems, and modern man has only been around for 300,000 years. So we don't have any of those mechanisms.
So they've had a bit of a head start on us to figure this out.
That's right.
Okay, let's do some more on health. I'm going to bring up a couple of charts here, one at a time. And this is a chart that compares a number of fatal health circumstances from the year 1960 until 2012. And if we look at the numbers of people that have died from heart disease today as compared to then, 60 years ago, it's down 68%. People who die from pneumonia today versus 60 years ago, off 70%. Stomach cancer, down 70%. Stroke, down 70%. Smallpox, eradicated. We have no people dying of smallpox anymore. What have we apparently figured out about these conditions, Dr. Poznansky, that has led to such success?
Well, in each case, we know specifically. In the case of heart disease and stroke, we've understood the relationship largely between blood pressure and those situations. We've developed techniques to lower cholesterol levels. We know when a heart attack occurs, and we know what to do with the patient. And we have all sorts of surgery, stents, bypass surgery, etc. In the case of stomach cancer, we know how to detect it early, and there are drugs that help us with it. And of course, smallpox is a vaccine that has wiped it out entirely.
Well, let's try this. How optimistic are you that we are actually headed for a world where we can turn on a dime and leave a nickel change when it comes to dealing with a virus and coming up with a vaccine within days or months as opposed to years?
Well, we just showed that. Okay, the new technology of mRNA vaccine traditionally should have taken 10 or 15 years to develop and to test. And with COVID-19, we did the whole thing in well under a year. Moderna, the company making the one of the mRNA drugs, is tweaking the vaccine for the new variants of the disease, and those are going to be tested clinically within days, not months and years. So really, the COVID-19 experience is a demonstration of how quickly we can do things. And in the years to come, it'll be even faster because you isolate the virus, you sequence it, and that used to take billions of dollars in a few years. Now it can be done in 10 or 20 minutes with $100, and so you can determine what the mutation is very rapidly and design an mRNA in this case. Drug right on your computer and then send it to the lab to be produced.
All right, let's move from health to hunger. I want to talk food because you talk about growing a new form of lettuce, for example, with 50% less sunlight and 75% less water than is required today. What's the idea there?
Well, again, you come back to the fact that there are a ton of different microbes that have adapted to different conditions in the world, and you know what those conditions are, and you know what the genomics, you know what genes are associated with that adaptation, and you can use them to modify your food. So let's take an example of a rice farmer in India. And all of his land becomes contaminated with sea salt from a monsoon. Well, he can either close up shop or he can try to do something to allow his rice to grow in salty water. Well, it turns out that there are genes which allow plants to grow in salty water. We can take those genes, we can know what they are very quickly, and we can insert them into the rice genome and put that rice farmer back into business. So in the case of lettuce, you have a vegetable or with very little nutritional value, and but you have the ability to grow it in a lot of sunlight. So why not enhance the lettuce with protein by inserting a gene for protein into the lettuce genome, and now you have a vegetable lettuce with high nutritional value, and you can do that with whatever you like. I mean, you can make a carrot with a protein, or you can make a potato that can grow in colder conditions and grow it further north, or you can even take wheat and grow it either further north or further south, depending on the conditions you have. Or you can actually have a vegetable whose genome sits on your computer, and when you go to Mars, you simply take that genome on your computer and you grow a completely new vegetable or completely new fruit dependent on the growth conditions on Mars, light, heat, etc.
I mean, the implications of this are absolutely astonishing. And I want to throw a quote your way from Craig Venter, who was the first man to map the human genome. You've got him in your book. He says, agriculture as we know it needs to disappear, that we can design better and healthier proteins than we get from nature. You think that's possible?
Oh, it's not only possible, it's necessary, because unfortunately, the entire agricultural area is very energy dependent, and it's a huge user of fossil fuels and a huge warmer of the climate in terms of CO2, greenhouse gases. And so I believe that as we go to feed the world in 2050, we're going to have to use much less land. We're going to have to clear fewer forests, and we'll actually have food grown in large vats in laboratories, and it'll be real food. It won't be fake food. And there's an Israeli group that's producing super meat in large vats. So rather than growing the meat on the back of an animal, a chicken or whatever, you can grow it in large vats. And then if you insist on having your meat look like a porterhouse steak, you can simply use a digital printer to make it look like a porterhouse steak. Now, this is not fanciful. You can already buy ice cream in California from a different number of different companies, where the milk used to make the ice cream is grown in large vats of yeast. So all the proteins that are currently made in milk in a cow can be made in a vat of any bacteria, but specifically they're using yeast right now. And those ice cream cones and creams and milks are available at the market in San Francisco.
Huh. All right, we've talked healthcare, we've talked food, and let's talk about the third thing that I said we'd touch on at the beginning, and that's pollution. Pollution reduction. You refer to a microbe that will help remove mercury and lead from our lakes and rivers. What's that about?
So let's go back 2,500 years, okay? And it's written that the copper miners in Spain would take water from the Rio Tinto River, that's a red river, and pour it over their copper deposits. And this would allow them to extract the copper from the copper sulfate. So they didn't know what was going on. They had no idea what was in the water that was causing this. It turns out it's a bacteria that's in the water that derives its energy for living from breaking down the bond between copper and sulfate. So here's a bacteria that specifically eats copper sulfate and spits out the copper. That's 2,500 years ago. So more recently, miners in Western Canada, the United States, and in Chile have discovered microbes that have specific affinities for different elements, specifically mercury and lead. So it's not far-fetched to start thinking that we can use large nets containing these microbes to clean our rivers and lakes of molecules like lead and mercury.
All right, let me ask you about another pollution problem. We know plastic takes years and years and years to break down. and it gets in our waterways, and it's incredibly harmful for that reason. It's essentially there forever. You talk about something that could actually break down the plastics in our oceans. What's that about?
So chemists have been surprisingly good at developing plastic material that unfortunately do not degrade. There are some plastics that degrade by with sunlight, but it's still pretty slow. And a group of Japanese have recently developed, again, three different types of microbes that can degrade plastic to water and carbon dioxide. And so that's tremendously exciting. It's being tested in Japan. It'll be an issue of how much the plastic costs to produce, but I have great hope that will occur within the few years to come, and so we won't have those landfills and oceans filled with plastic.
Okay, let's talk ethics here, because whenever science comes up with something new, automatically, it seems, come a whole host of ethical questions that come alongside. Are there things related to the things that we've been talking about here tonight that require deeper, more ethical considerations?
They all require ethical considerations. They all require regulatory issues. We have to make sure that everything we do as a result of the science is safe. Okay? But we also have to do it not necessarily quickly, but we have to be cognizant of the time we have to solve some of these problems. And we can't afford to let some of these issues languish in academic ethics committees or government ethics committees until most of the damage has been done. So ethics and regulation are very important, but we have to do them efficiently. And I have a saying that I often use, is that technology leapfrogs policy. And that's not good, okay? But it'll always happen if our regulatory bodies and our ethics bodies are too slow.
But do I hear you saying that we may have to, because of the time pressures, cut corners on ethical considerations or regulatory considerations in a way that we might not have 50 years ago, because we just don't have the luxury of time to figure all this out?
Well, there's a difference between cutting corners and being efficient. So I do not accept the notion that we have to cut corners. But if we're going to approve a COVID-19 vaccine, people should be working on the weekend, and it shouldn't sit on somebody's desk between Thursday and Tuesday just because they want to. They don't want to be working at those days. So it's not an issue of cutting corners. It's an issue of being efficient.
And do we have that efficiency working for us yet, in your view?
Well, I'm in trouble anyway, so I'll continue. Not in Canada. The Americans are pretty good at it, but not in Canada. And it's interesting to see that each of the vaccines that were approved in the United States took an additional week or 10 days, or sometimes even more, to be approved by Health Canada. And it's probably that they just don't have the people working on the issues, and they're probably more cautious, et cetera. Canadian.
Well, that's what they'd like to say. They say we're more cautious, and that's why it takes longer. But is it maybe because they don't work weekends and the Americans do?
Well, I can tell you a personal experience of a drug that we developed at the Robarts about 20 years ago. And in parallel, I took it to the Food and Drug Administration in Washington and to Health Canada in Ottawa. The people at the Food and Drug Administration held my hand and walked me through. I was a neophyte at the time, walked me through the process and helped me tremendously, and the drug got tested through the Americans. I'm yet to hear from Health Canada 20 years later.
Yeah, seriously? You haven't heard from them yet?
Absolutely.
Why do you think?
Well, they probably hoped that I had gone away.
And yet here you are. After reading the book, don't get mad at me for saying this, but some of this stuff seems so futuristic. It seems science fiction rather than science fact. Is that fair to say?
No. And the best example is the COVID-19 uh, uh, vaccine. Okay. In that book, it was written just before COVID-19, and I talked about the fact that you would be able to identify the virus and develop a highly specific vaccine to it in a matter of, well, I said hours and days. It took a little longer than that, but that's an example. Absolutely, these are not issues born of science fiction.
I got to ask.
Not one of them.
Not one of them. Okay. I got to ask you, you've dedicated this book to your grandchildren. How many grandkids you got?
Well, I had 5 then. I had 6 then. I just developed another one who I haven't seen.
So where are you, at 6.5 right now or so?
No, I have a 7th, but he was born late December in Alberta, so I haven't seen him yet.
Oh, okay, very good. So 7 grandkids. Anyway, you have said that your grandkids and their generation are going to need all of these technologies and more to live at the standards that many of us enjoy today in the year 2021. And I guess I want to know, what odds do you give on that happening?
Well, as you say, I'm an optimist, and I think there are real scientific solutions to all of our problems. But we're going to have to figure out this global warming thing sooner rather than later. But there are solutions. But there are also a ton of people who think that it's a hoax. But if we were to apply all the resources the American government is giving to COVID-19, that $8 trillion, okay, we could solve global warming. We can convert the entire North American fossil fuel economy to one based on solar energy and nuclear energy and wind. So there are solutions, but we have to have the wherewithal to apply them in a timely fashion. And if we wait too long, we're going to continue to suffer the polar vortices that Texas suffered and the incredible fires that you see in Australia, California, and Oregon. And I don't think we can afford to have that occur for too much longer.
The name of your book, Saved by Science, The Hope and Promise of Synthetic Biology. It's brought Mark J. Poznansky to our virtual studio tonight from Forest Hill in Toronto. It's great to see you again, and thanks for joining us.
Likewise. Thanks a lot, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.